Hi, are you a coffee drinker? I know I am. So, I thought this would be the perfect opportunity to dig into the bad and the good effects and learn more about the common drink that us humans consume daily. My goal for this presentation is to dig into the facts of consuming coffee and discover the pros and the cons. The three main topics I am going to cover today is where and when coffee was originated, and of course the pros and the cons. If you don't already know where and when coffee was originated, have you ever been curious? Let's find out. I discovered that there is no set story on when and where coffee was originated, but on the internet there is two stories that is provided. None of them is 100% true, but I'm gonna give two examples, and believe it or not, the first one that I'm going to tell you is what a majority of everybody believes more than the second one. The first story sets place where the plant came from, which is Ethiopia, Africa, in 850 AD, around there, in the region of Kaffa, eventually where the name coffee came from. There was a goat herder named Kaldi, and he noticed that his goats one day were dancing, as the title of the story is called, and being very active after eating these red berries. As brave as the man was, he ate the berries himself and noticed their effects. He wanted to share this with the people that was present around him, so he took the berries to the head monk, and the monk rejected his offer and threw the beans in a fire, supposedly. The result was a rich aroma that captivated the monk. After the fire was stoked, they picked up the roasted coffee beans that were left among the ashes, ground them, and produced the first ever cup of coffee in the world. Now, that was the first story. That's what most people believe. For the second story, they believe a man in Yemen named Shi Omar, who was famous for his healing powers, was banished for unknown reasons to a cave in the desert. He was so hungry and desperate that he came across these red berries. So he tried them, but of course he did not like the taste. They were very bitter and whatnot. So he thought to make his meal interesting, he would try to take these beans and roast them and turn it into a drink. He ended up producing an energized liquid that sustained him for days. When the others in the community found out about his magical drink, he was suddenly invited back to the community. Now, that was the second story. Not sure which one to believe there, but they both sound pretty believable. So now that we know where coffee was originated in the two stories that I went over, I thought let's move on to the pros and the cons of consuming coffee. And I thought we would get the worst out of the way, so we'll start with the cons. To start with the cons of coffee, the first one is that coffee can affect sleep patterns. It can cause digestive issues. Caffeine is, of course, addictive. Caffeine causes high blood pressure. Coffee reduces iron absorption, which is one thing I didn't know. And coffee can cause tooth decay. With that being said, let's move on to the pros of drinking coffee. The pros of drinking coffee: coffee is loaded with powerful antioxidants. Caffeine is a strong stimulant. Caffeine lowers the risk of type 2 diabetes, And drinking coffee surprisingly counts as your daily intake for like fluid intake, which I didn't know that, but I wouldn't say it'd be good as water, but I guess it counts. To wrap Before I wrap things up, I thought I would share an interesting fact that I found within my research, and that is in the early 1500s, in the court of Mecca, they actually banned coffee due to its stimulating effects. And that happened within Egypt and Ethiopia as well. And eventually riots started happening on the Arab streets, and eventually the ban was lifted. But I thought I would share that because that's just weird to think that coffee was banned in places. So to finish things off, coffee can have its good and bad effects on your body, but overall, coffee can also be beneficial to your health and can affect your physical health in both good and bad ways. Thank you.